Hey guys, welcome back to another video at Jensen's Reptiles. Today we have a bit of a request video, so King Serpents, shout out to you, requested that I make a video on my Mexican red knee. So, her enclosure's been revamped recently, so it's actually a perfect time to do it. Her old enclosure is actually down there on the floor, ready for use for something else. But this one's all been newly done just for her, to make it kind of spider friendly, so to speak. The substrate is a little higher than before, and there's a little fake tree to stop her from hanging upside down in that corner, and a little grass over there to stop her doing the same. Eerie has a habit of climbing up the back, right up to the top, and hanging upside down. And on top of the habisphere, this is an Exoterra habisphere enclosure. On the top, the mesh is actually quite large. Rather than being a fine mesh, it's a little bit more open. So she's able to put her little hooks on her feet through and hold on. The only issue was that she was putting her fangs through. So she had her fangs through, slipped a little bit, and actually popped one of her fangs out. Which is, it's not ideal. That was in the older enclosure before it was redone. So she has one fang now, and she's doing fine, but when she molts, hopefully it'll start to come back through. So yeah, I'm just going to show you her enclosure and talk a little bit about this species and what they kind of need. So her substrate is a sand soil mix with some excavated clay, Zoomed excavated clay mixed through it. She's got her skull over here, which she can hide inside. There's an entrance on the back as well. She's got a really deep burrow over on the left there, which she's sitting on top of at the moment. That's all made with excavator, so kind of putting like a balloon or something similar inside, packing the clay around it, letting it dry, popping the balloon is the best way to do it. That one was done slightly differently because the wood wouldn't allow for the balloon to sit inside because the balloon kept pushing the wood up. So all of that wood at the front was being pushed up, and there were loads of cracks in the clay. So actually we ended up making it by hand and packing it out bit by bit and letting it dry, adding to it. It didn't take too long, but it did collapse like twice while we were doing it. So a little bit of a pain. I would definitely recommend finding something to put inside, building around it, and then pulling it out. But it worked, and she has a really cool burrow, which is pretty deep actually, and filled out with some softer substrate so she can dig. So this is Eerie over here. As I said, she's a Mexican red knee. The classification for this species changed recently from B. smithii, or Brachypelma smithii, to Brachypelma helmori. As far as I'm aware, it's because they found no really distinct differences between the two classifications, so now they're grouped under helmori. Do correct me if I'm wrong on that one. That's just what I've read in the papers. If I've got the wrong end of something, do let me know. She's got her water bowl over there. It's really important to provide tarantulas with a water bowl, obviously appropriate to the size that they are. If Eerie was smaller, we'd be looking at bottle caps or something like that. Don't use sponges, they harbour bacteria. Anything that you put in the water bowl, make sure you can clean it really easily. Her bowl gets scrubbed out every 2 days, so it's kept really clean, and she does drink from that frequently, especially if she's going to molt. She'll be seen drinking for that for like 2 days, not constantly obviously, but for those 2 days before she starts the molting process, she will drink a hell of a lot more, so it's a pretty good indication. She's got her little Rose of Jericho at the front here, which if you give it a spray down, the whole thing opens up. I think it's on its way to closing completely at the moment, so might give it a spray soon. Being a desert species, she doesn't need high humidity, but airflow is quite important. So this tank has whole top panel ventilation, which is fine. Cross ventilation is really important for some species, but for this one, not as important. That being said, they do need good ventilation, so make sure that's taken care of. Using an enclosure like this, I feel is a good size for her. You can see her size in here. I certainly wouldn't go any smaller, but definitely could go bigger on the width of it. I wouldn't give her any more height, as good as she is at climbing. I've learned that she can do herself some real harm if she were to slip, and she's not as agile as an arboreal tarantula, obviously, so she's not really as graceful when she climbs. Temperature wise, these tarantulas are comfortable when you're comfortable, so if you start to feel cold, then they most likely are as well. So keep them at a good room temperature. If your house is cold, provide them with an external heat source, either a low wattage ceramic or maybe a heat mat, not underneath because they'll burrow, to cool down, so on the side of enclosure if anything. Not too much more to say about Eerie. That's pretty much all she does. Occasionally when she's hungry, she'll start to roam around the tank a little bit to hunt, but she only really eats once a month, so it's fairly low maintenance. She just chills out there really, and not much else to say about her. She's really pretty tarantula, very colourful. She does flick her hairs, so not the most docile. I know a lot of people say these are good starter tarantula. I don't have enough experience with other species to say for sure. I think she's pretty chilled out. I don't handle her. I don't see a need to. She would get nothing out of it. Neither would I. So, yeah. Eerie's about 5 years old. I've had her since she was 2, so only about 3 years now. She's helping me day by day get over severe arachnophobia. I have 3 spiders now, 2 tarantulas, 1 jumping spider, so definitely kind of coming to terms with how cool they are. I can really appreciate them behind glass. If a house spider was to kind of crawl up on me right now, I would still completely freak out. They're not my most favourite thing in the world, but having tarantulas is really changing my view on spiders as a whole, and I wouldn't change anything about Eerie and the others I have too. I absolutely adore her, and I think she's stunning, so she's really helping me out there. But yeah, this is her enclosure, and if you have any questions about keeping this kind of tarantula or her enclosure or anything like that, do let me know in the comments below. As usual, I'll get back to you as soon as possible, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe if you haven't already.